Okay, well, that was an incredible performance. I'm so excited to welcome Guillermo Galindo back to the stage. Guillermo?
It's on, I think.
There you are. Okay. Welcome. That was fantastic. I thought that was, I'm so moved. I feel very, like, it was very emotional.
Thank you.
It was so much more than I expected it to be. I, read about the project and read about the story, but I had no idea what to expect, and I found myself going through a lot of different thoughts and feelings. So I guess maybe we could just start with the project itself, because it's such an interesting thing. Can you tell us a little bit about how it came about and how you got started on making the instruments?
Well, can I start by thanking people?
Yeah, sure, you can start by thanking people. Absolutely.
So I want to thank my wonderful musicians, and I want to thank all of the people that are here. Many of them I know very well, and I love everybody. And I like to thank also all the people at the Exploratorium that were really wonderful with us. Wayne Grimm, Francesca D'Alessio.
That's her over there, I heard her. We couldn't do it without Fran.
Maria Silverman, Rick and Andy that were helping us here with the constellation system.
Yes, Rick and Andy up in the booth, the invisible techs.
And I want to especially thank all the people that helped me build all of these wonderful instruments. I had a lot of amazing people working with me in the instruments that are here and the instruments that will be at the museum. And I also like to thank my collaborator, Richard Misrach, which is here, and Sofia Cordova, that we work our butts for the last 3 years, and it's a magnificent project. When you have to see all of it together, it's just mind-blowing.
Are a lot of the instruments that are here going to be as part of the exhibition, or are you moving around with these ones?
Well, that's a good question. I had to make doubles of a lot of instruments because the museums don't like it when you take the instruments out of the exhibit, obviously, because nobody can see anything.
Right. Well, maybe we could just talk a little bit about Border Cantos and how it came to be and how you got involved and how you were inspired to make these instruments.
Well, it all started with, I heard a program, a radio program in NPR, and I heard this person that lived in the border, and she was explaining all of the things that she found of the migrants and children's subjects, all of the things, and I was in my car and I was crying. I was like, wow, what the heck, I'm crying about this, and this is very intense. So exactly at that moment, the Quinteto Latino came and proposed me to write a piece based in Latin American subjects. And probably they want me to make an arrangement of La Cucaracha or something like that, but instead of that, I said, I have an idea. I can go to the border and pick up this stuff and make a piece with these things, And I'm sure we get a grant. So we got a grant, and I wrote a piece for Quinteto Latino. That is the first piece I wrote. And in the meantime, I built the instruments. And Daniel Alarcón invited me to Pop-Up Magazine to talk about the instruments. He wrote a text. And Richard saw us, and he contacted us, and the rest is history. And very good history.
Very good.
Very good history.
So had you built instruments prior to this project?
Yes, I built like about 5 instruments, but
okay.
Now, there's no comparison with.
Yes.
And there were actually, that one was part of the first.
Should we go over and look at some things?
Yeah,
Let's do that. It's just too intriguing. Can you hold it up a little bit for me?
Yeah, sure.
Here, I'll hold it, and you can tell us about it. Okay. Can everybody see this?
It's unplugged.
Okay.
Yeah, these are bones. And I found these next to a fire where there were several backpacks. And they're vertebra. I don't know. I don't think they're human. I think they're animal. But, probably they're human. I don't know. And these are rocks.
And is this based on an existing instrument?
Yeah, this is based on the Japanese koto. It's kind of a small version. The sides, these things are, these beautiful birds are made with shells of the Border Patrol, plastic shells. Shotgun shells.
Shotgun.
Actually, I should invite Richard here, so he knows better than me. But yeah.
Okay, we'll put that one down.
So this one is called the hueso cordio.
So let's see, what else have
Hueso means bone, hueso cordio. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 strings, yeah.
What do we have here?
This is golf balls that Richard found in golf courses at the border. And the balls travel back and forth. They don't need a passport. They don't need anything.
Free golf balls. They get to move wherever they want. Let's see, what else do we have? This is kind of interesting here.
Yeah, these are the bottles that we couldn't blow in them because you see they're falling apart. So I gave it to the percussionist to get some tones out of these.
Wonderful. And what about this one? I don't think I'll hold it up, but can everybody see it? It's sort of
if anyone can see it, this is called the soundscape. So it's a real soundscape. It's not recorded or anything. It's
it looks
a real
like
soundscape.
Nails inside.
Yeah, the nails represent the border, and it's based in a photograph of Richard of the border, these mountains that are in the border. But what is more interesting about this is these pages here. There are pages of a Bible that was dedicated to a little girl, and Richard found this Bible. And yes.
When you talk about the border, where in the border?
Oh, this was, where was it born? Huh?
That was Texas. Those two children's Bibles I found near the Gulf of Mexico on the Texas border, and along with okay, what Guillermo did is the soundscape is a series of mountains, and then there's nails that you can't see that I brought back from the border that make up the border wall, kind of a metaphor for the wall. And then on the other side, the whole landscape, the whole ground is filled with the pages of these small Bibles that I found in fields where, I don't know if you all remember from NPR a year and a half ago, the 52,000 unaccompanied children coming from Central America. I found these fields of just children's things, no adult things, and the two Bibles were part of that.
What is it made of?
The rocks are made of, here's the guy who made it.
It's made out of cherry and walnut wood, hardwood.
This is a very exploratorium, participatory. Loving this.
And by the way, the sound in that's incredible.
Yeah.
It really is. It's a picture of an area.
Yeah.
A relief. So it's like a physical sample, right?
Yeah, it's like a tepor. You know a tepornashli. It's an Aztec instrument that is made of hollow wood. So that's what it's imitating, basically. And actually, the patina that is here, you see the patina? That's actual patina made with the sand of the desert.
What about this one here, center stage, Guillermo?
Oh, this is very interesting. This tube, and Richard corrects me if I'm wrong, okay? This is part of the Normandy type border, no?
It's too good a story to pass up. Oh, there we go. We have an extra mic. Yay. Okay. Thank you.
So one of the things that was really interesting in this collaboration with Guillermo, I've traveled almost 2,000 miles between the Pacific Ocean and the Gulf of Mexico, and I photographed in California, Arizona, New Mexico, and Texas. And unlike what we all expect, the border wall is not one kind of material or one kind of design. There's many, many, many kinds. And one of the most unusual was a series of these iron tubes that I found in one section in the California desert. I've never seen anything like it. It looked like a fabricated sculpture, maybe that Richard Serra would have built. And what I would do is I'd always find near construction sites buried pieces of the wall that were used. And so I found about 50 pounds of this stuff, and Guillermo took one little section and just turned it into an instrument.
Yeah, actually took the smallest section because the other ones were extremely heavy and extremely hard to, to deal with. But I made this activator. It's actually socks with stones inside. Makes wonderful.
How about these ones back here, Guillermo?
Oh, these,
Sorry,
you can pull
I
them
don't
out.
know.
You
We
can pull them out.
Yeah?
Pull them out.
Oh, you can pull them out. Okay.
Pull the small one.
Okay. Let's bring that forward.
They're all different sizes, but they look the same. These are the Jan tambores. These are made of inner skin, of inner tube of the inner tube, inflated inner tubes that they use to cross the Rio Grande. And they've gone through several designs. Jake Thomason, that is here, perfected this design, which is
Jake.
an amazing design, because we went through several designs. The first one, we made holes in it, and they were holding the cables, and it ripped the whole thing. This one is amazing because it's tunable. You can turn these things around and tune it. And it's perfectly symmetrical, so it pulls the same tension in every single direction. And they are made with PVC tube.
Can I add one thing on that?
Yeah.
Because I think it's really interesting. In Texas along the Rio Grande, I found, and Guillermo had found some when he had gone to Texas years ago.
Yeah.
Then when I went a year ago, I found 3 of these inner tubes that people had used across the Rio Grande. What's interesting is the Border Patrol, when they find the inner tubes, they slash them so they can't be reused again. So all 3 of them that I brought back have been slashed and hung in trees.
Yeah. Also, it's very interesting, the part where they are mounted in, you see the clothing part? Those are the little booties that immigrants use to cross the border in order that the Border Patrol doesn't track their footprints. So there's thousands of these booties, no? And the cross of
And
the
I
border.
see you have barbed wire down
Yeah,
here.
the barbed
as well.
wire is part of the old division between Mexico and the U.S. That's the first division, no? The first division that happened before there was a wall, no?
And then over here behind you, Guillermo, I noticed there's a lot of what look like casings. Are they shotgun casings, shells?
Yeah, they're from a shooting range for the Border Patrol. These are casings of bullets. Metallic sound.
And then maybe the last one I'll pick up just because it's so compelling looking is this.
So this minion was used for a target, no? For the shooting range, for the patrol.
It's probably not what they intended when they designed these little guys, right?
Poor guy.
Fantastic.
And then this one is
Oh,
very
yeah,
interesting
that-
because this one is called the tonk, and it's actually a flashlight used by the Border Patrol, and they call it tonk because it's the sound that it makes when they hit some immigrant's head with this thing. So we made a trumpet out of these.
So I'm really curious, Guillermo, when you started playing with all these different objects, did you know the sounds that you wanted to create, or how did you conceptualize the instruments?
Well, I had an idea of if I wanted a wind instrument or if I wanted something that sounded like a brass or something that sounded like a string instrument, but in reality, I work the opposite way that instrument builders work. No? An instrument building is forcing the instrument to create a sound, and this is the other way around. The instrument is telling me what it wants to sound like.
And it's incredible. And then once you have these instruments, I understand that you compose the pieces that we listened to tonight. How does that part work? You have the instruments, you know what the sounds are, and then you write the music with those sounds?
Well, I got the instruments to the players, which are fantastic, very professional players, and I got them to explore them. And then I saw what they could do with them, and then from there I wrote my composition instead of forcing them to do some sound of the instruments that doesn't make, you know. So it's kind of a logical way to work with this.
Well, I just thought it was so interesting because as I was listening to the pieces, there were some things that were more obvious, like when Tom was playing the flashlight and it sounded like voices, but there were other sounds. I don't know if other people had this experience where I was thinking of running sounds of people running or, you know, these, and maybe it was because of what I knew about them, but I just wondered if that was some of the intentionality behind the composition.
Yeah, we're looking of the limit between a Foley artist and a composer, no? A Foley artist if anybody knows what a Foley artist is, no? A Foley artist is the person that creates the sound effects for a film. So they have this narrative, no? The narrative of sounds that we're familiar with, that we hear every day in our lives, like, I don't know, like water, like things like that, you know.
Door closing.
There's a part that is music, and there's the limit between music and sound, no? Sound of things that we're familiar with, and it has an iconographic and archetypal value as well.
Did you find that a narrative sort of came out of the compositions, or did you have a narrative in your head? Or stories that you wanted to sort of touch on, or?
Well, I saw the shape of the piece, and I put it in flashcards, and then I put it in different ways, and I built it so that there was a narrative from the beginning to the end, and there was some consistency in the sounds and the composition, so that there was a logic within it. No, there's a lot of the idea of call and response. It exists a lot, and that goes deeply into music that is based in call and response. No, the African music is very much based in call and response, and there's a lot of musics in the world and religions that are based in the call and response system. And well, there's a lot of things. There's a thing about, I thought about this piece about a group effort, no? It's like if we're all in the border trying to make a trip, and we all help each other to cross musically.
Yeah, I definitely got that. So as far as the exhibition down at the San Jose Museum of Art, you said you might have to make some copies. Will you be performing these pieces down there or in other locations around the area?
Yes, the next performance is at MACLA, in San Jose, and then that's in March 6th, I think. And then after that, there's a performance at the museum, San Jose Museum, and then I'm performing again the first quintet that I wrote at San Jose Museum.
That sort of leads me into where I wanted to go, which was I wanted to ask you a little bit about your background in terms of both composition and being a player of music, and like how you, because when I was reading about you, I was reading that you've written operas and you've written these different things, so I was curious about, you know, sort of how you got into music originally and then these different forms that it's taken in your career.
Well, all I can say is that nobody taught me in the conservatory how to do this. I didn't learn these things. These I learned it on my own. But my grandfather was a piano merchant, and I grew up playing with piano parts.
We've got one in the back that needs some work, actually. If you. So, and I know that we have some Mills people in the house tonight, including your ensemble,
there's all Mills
right?
people here.
So you went.
This is the Mills class reunion.
Mills. Well, maybe we'll open the floor up for some questions from our audience. We have a couple mics that are floating around. Richard's got one, I think, right down here in front. Fran?
Share the mic. Share the mic.
Yeah, how you doing? I just got here, and man, this is kind of fascinating. All this stuff, all these instruments, are they related to immigrants trying to cross the border and the abuse that the Border Patrol is inflicting on these immigrants? All this stuff symbolic of that?
Yes, the objects that are part of the immigrants, I consider them sacred, literally, and I consider them is the objects that they cross our lives when we're alive. You know, is their clothing, our toothbrushes, our the things we drink, the things we live, and I gave also a voice to the Border Patrol. No, you see the shell game, so they have their voice, and interestingly, and if you allow me to add this, the voices of the Border Patrol and of that are very metallic and very different. They have a very different voice than the other things.
Are you going to play any more?
Now?
Well, later.
No, not today.
Not tonight,
Oh,
sorry. Where's another question? Right here.
Yeah, so I'm curious about the collaboration of how this becomes a visual art collaboration.
Oh, this is very interesting because I've been thinking, I mean, we've been working nonstop for 3 years, Richard and I, and all of the people that has been helping us doing the exhibit and the book. And I didn't have time to stop and think about it, but now that I'm thinking about it, I feel like we're showing our art, and the art is about the spaces that haven't been filled out. The spectator or the listener or the person that watches the Richard's beautiful photographs of the border fills in the spaces, the gaps that are missing. No, we created a space for people to move around and fill in the gaps. In my own take, no, I don't know what Richard believes, but I think, and we're completely merged together. No, we work so much together, and the photographs and the music are so integrated together that they're one type of art. They're not two different art forms. They're one type of art.
Do we have some other questions down here?
Hi, Guillermo.
Hi. Hi, Elaine. How are you?
I am happy. So I want to follow up on what you just said, actually, because that idea of the visual and the oral merging into a new kind of art. And what was striking in one iteration of this piece that I saw was the ability to see the scores, which I'm assuming are going to be on display in the museum, and watching the musicians interacting with scores tonight. And there was a part of it that I kept wondering how much of this is playful and how much of it is real, and I don't want you to actually answer that question, but what the beauty of the scores was also that it was another language, and it was another visual and musical language, and it was a created language, and it was something that was it crossed a border between imagined and possible, and are people actually reading these scores, or are they meant to be playful, or whatever, and all of that was really interesting as far as that kind of border crossing of language and art and music and whatever, and I love that element of it.
Oh, thank you. That's great. The scores there are these scores that are the ones that are already transcribed, and there are the scores that appear in the book, and they're going to be in the installation. They still need to be transcribed, but there's this. We're dealing with several borders. No, we're dealing with the border between Mexico and the U.S. and all the borders that exist, and we're also dealing with the border between the visual and the sound, and the merging of both borders.
Do we have any other questions? Maybe one more back here, Fran? Thank you.
So, Guillermo, could you say something about the shamanic intention? Where, I certainly felt that, and just wanted to know how you might put words on that.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for asking that. That's very important. Yes, the old pre-Columbian cultures believed that the objects and the sound that the objects made is totally attached to the object and is part of the soul of the object. These instruments are made of items, personal items of people that have left their homes, and it's probably the last thing that they would ever take in the last trip of their lives. And they have a lot of intensity. I'm wearing this because it protects me for the intensity. These are sacred objects. And these objects and the music that I make with it and the instruments that I made with it include a lot of respect and a lot of spirituality for the energy that they have. Since I started this project, a lot of doors have opened for me. And it's my responsibility, my humble responsibility, to move this around, because these things want to talk, and they speak to me, and they speak to the people. And this is very important to me. I don't know if calling it shamanic or spiritual or anything, but I don't play the instruments play me.
Wow, well, that's pretty excellent point to end on. But I do want to ask, just for everybody to know, so the exhibition opens in San Jose on the 25th of February.
That's right.
San Jose Museum of Art, everyone. And I did put a card down here. There might be a couple other ones floating around. Can you also tell us about when the book is out already, or is it coming out?
The book is being bound as we speak in Italy. Oops, sorry.
Thank you.
So the book is being bound in Italy. It's almost 300 pages. It's epic. It's a monster book. It's beautiful, and we probably have 30 copies in time for the opening on the 25th, and the rest of the copies are coming by ship, and they'll be, it takes a while, so it'll be April before they get to the general distribution. And the show, it starts at the San Jose Museum, it then goes to the Ame Carter Museum in Texas, goes to the Crystal Bridges Museum in Arkansas, and then it may be going to Mexico City and Tijuana, so we're working on that.
How exciting.
Yeah, so it could be traveling for 3 years.
That's wonderful. Guillermo, I had one other quick question, which is, I know you've been steeped in this project, so I feel a little strange asking, but do you have other things? I imagine you have other things on the horizon as well coming up in your work. I was just curious.
Yes, as I said, a lot of things have happened in the last years. I was last week. I was very curious because I was invited to follow this project in Greece with the immigrants, with the Syrian immigrants.
Oh, how exciting!
To do a score, and also within the last 3 months, I got a commission for the Kronos Quartet, which I'm very proud of.
Oh, very exciting! Wow, that's wonderful. Okay, well, I think we'll wrap it there, everybody. If you want to come up, Guillermo, are you open to chatting with people?
Totally.
Okay, great.
Let me get my beer.
We still have a little bit of time. The museum's open for another 50 minutes or so, so if you want to go out on the floor and enjoy. Thank you so much all for coming, and come back for Resonance. We love you so much. Thank you to our curator, Wayne Grimm, who's back there in the back of the show. And thanks to my staff and the public program staff. And we'll see you all again soon. Thank you.